Hey, David.
How you doing, Steve?
Good. Welcome to Techonomy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So you've been in the job at Nestle North America for about 9 months, is that right?
Yes.
And how's it going?
It's going great.
Good. So just to sort of set the table a little bit, Nestle North America, you guys are first the world's largest bottled water company. You've got a bizarrely diverse portfolio of brands. You've got Pellegrino, Arrowhead, Deer Park, Poland Spring. Did I get most of them?
Aquapana.
Aquapana. There you go. So obviously everyone knows that there's a plastics problem. In fact, it's a crisis around the world.
Absolutely.
Give us some context about the severity of the crisis
Sure.
and how we got to this point.
So today there's over 8 million metric tons of plastics that end up in the ocean every year. And basically that's equivalent to about one garbage truck per minute dumping plastic into the ocean. And that all of that equates to about $1 billion that is just being thrown up and polluting our oceans. 80% of that comes from the land. So we know where the sources are, we know what the issues are, and it is definitely, we've achieved a tipping point. And as you mentioned, I joined 9 months ago. I joined Nestle Waters because I felt Nestle Waters was in the best position to really achieve a waste-free future, and that's what we're working toward with all of our products that we have and ones that we're planning on coming out with. Personally, as I was going through the interview process, I had on my desk the June 2018 edition of National Geographic, Planet or Plastic. And it was then that I realized this is why I need to work for Nestle Waters. You know, I need to be a part of this. They're positioned to really solve this. And so as part of coming on board, I had an opportunity to participate in the Ocean Plastics Leadership Summit. So there was over 150 people representing lots of different brands, lots of different environmental NGOs, different thought leaders in this space. And we went out into the North Atlantic Gyre, and I literally came face to face with floating plastic in the middle of the ocean. And it was personally very disturbing. And, you know, to make sure that I fully understood this problem, I even asked to room with Greenpeace. So we were roommates for 4 days on the boat. Yeah, and it was eye-opening. And we do have a crisis, but you know, I'm really passionately and personally committed to solving it. And I've got the backing of Nestle Waters to be a part of the solution and move towards a waste-free future. I mean, we're breaking the rules, and that's how we've done what we've done and what we're going to continue to do. Yep.
It's worth putting a sharper point on how severe the crisis is. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is very sort of recycling and sustainability focused, estimates that by the year 2050, we may have more plastic in our oceans than fish.
Yes.
Right, that's a pretty sobering projection.
That's the garbage truck dumping in for a minute, every year to 2050.
So more Americans than ever are prioritizing environmental protections, but yet recycling rates in the U.S. have not really progressed. How do you explain that gap?
So you're right. Americans are more concerned than ever and want to be a part of the solution, but they're really confused. The industry hasn't done a good job communicating, exactly what is recyclable or what is recycled material. And we're a nation on the go, and we prioritize convenience. And unfortunately, we just did a study, and 42% of Americans feel it's easier to throw plastic out than it is to recycle. And people in rural areas have even a worse opportunity. So they're at like 54, 56% feel it's easier to throw out plastic.
And is that because there's not an infrastructure in place to facilitate recycling or something else?
There is infrastructure, but it's not convenient. And I mean, we need to make recycling as easy as it is to throw something out. And unfortunately, we just haven't done that yet. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Let's talk about Nestle's plastics recycling evolution, which we wrote about in the magazine. Yeah. Give us a sense of the two big goals that you've set to boost the usage of recycled material in your plastic products.
Yeah. Since joining Nestle Waters, there's 3 numbers that keep me up at night that I keep thinking about: 6, 4, and 2. So this will give you a little context of what we're doing. and how scale matters. So there's 6 billion pounds of this type of plastic. It's called PET. So
Which means what?
Polyethyl terephthalate. So in other words, it's the number one that you might see in the triangle. By the way, the little triangle in here, what it means is where it came from, not necessarily where it's going. So whenever you see that little triangle embossed on a piece of plastic, again, it tells you where it came from, not necessarily where it's going or will it be recycled or not. So that adds to the confusion, but there's 6 billion pounds of this used in the US every year. Only 2 billion is recovered and recycled. So there's 4 billion that's landfilled or incinerated or unfortunately finds itself in the environment. These bottles were never meant to be thrown out. They're meant to be recycled. Of the 2 billion that is recycled, that's that 30%. 2 billion out of 6 billion. Only 350 to 400 million pounds are made from achieve food grade level qualities, which we need. So in terms of scale, if Nestle Waters was to buy all that 350 to 400 million pounds, that's what we would need to do to move to 100%. So we'd have to buy everything available. And there's a lot of companies trying to buy that, which is great. There's definitely not a demand side problem here. There's a supply side problem. We need to increase the amount of food grade and all recycled plastic.
But you set two very specific goals. Can you explain what they are and what are some of the key steps you're doing to get there?
So we've set two goals. One is to achieve 25% recycled content in all of our still water format.
Across the portfolio.
Across the portfolio, across all the brands that Stephen had mentioned. By 2021. By 2025, we want to achieve 50%. And embedded in that, part of that, Poland Spring will achieve 100% recycled content by 2022. So that means we're making bottles with these bottles. So a circular economy is achievable. We're doing it right now. Here in California with the Arrowhead brand, we've been at 50% recycled content since 2012. Or that's when we started incorporating it. So it is possible, but you got to break the rules in order to do it. I mean, plastic today is a commodity like corn, soy, steel, and generally those are traded and bought on a day-to-day basis following an index. And in order to really secure long-term supplies, we have to do long-term contracts. We need to move from transactional relationships into really partnership-based strategic relationships. So that's, I guess, breaking the rules. We view plastic as a strategic resource, and it's really key to our long-term success.
Nestle North America, you guys talk often about designing for recyclability. Like, what does that even mean, and how does it play itself out?
So there's a good way to design packaging, and there's a bad way to design packaging. And part of the reason why only 30% is recycled in the US today is because not all packaging is designed efficiently, effectively. Let me give you an example. So when these bottles go through the recycling process, basically they're collected, they're taken to a material recovery facility, they're baled in a big bale, that's sent to a plastic processor. That processor will grind these up and then wash them to remove the contaminants. During that wash phase is critical. So let me just give you an example. This label comes off, smooth, no adhesive on there. When companies design their labels with really strong adhesives or inks that stay on the bottle, that will contaminate the plastic. And what happens is that 2 billion pounds has to be made into carpet or made into the bags. I'll tell you, have you ever been to Whole Foods and you bought one of those blue bags or Trader Joe's and it says made from 10 plastic bottles? That's horrible. That's the worst use of a plastic bottle, is to make it into a reusable bag. We want to make it into another bottle. And in order to do that, you have to design it in ways that keeps the plastic really clean as it goes through the recycling process. Even the caps are are critical and the materials that are used so that they can go through the process without contaminating the plastic, the PET.
Sure. Any questions for David from the audience? I see a question here. Can you introduce yourself? Is a microphone coming? If you can talk loudly, that'd be awesome.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Brooks, and we'll come to you in a second. All the way in the back, please.
Okay. So I'm originally from Germany, and we have the word recycling in Germany, and it means something completely different. It means refilling bottles and reusing them. It's done for beer, for waters, for sodas, all sorts of drinks. And I wonder why that is not a thing in the US, because clearly that should have a better ecological equation.
David.
Yeah. So part of our business includes aluminum cans, glass bottles, and plastic, but it also includes returnable, refillable containers. So the 5-gallon water bubblers, as they were being referred to out there, is a big part of our business. We sell 60 million of them. So we are definitely promoting refillable, reusable containers. But there is a difference in what recycling means. And so in the US, we have a lot of education that we need to do. And people don't understand what is recycled content or recyclable. So this is 100% recyclable. And this bottle is made with 100% recycled content. And here you mentioned Germany that has like a 98% recycling rate, and that includes the use of refillable bottles. Here in California, it's 78%, but there's a lot of places across the country where it's 0%. So on average, it's 30%, but we've got a long way to go. And again, as I mentioned, coming on to Nestle Waters, we're all about breaking the rules. Business as usual will not solve this problem. So in addition to committing really bold, ambitious goals to move toward 100% recycled content, we also are introducing products and services that will absolutely disrupt this business. So we announced earlier this year, Refill Plus, which is a personalized, customized hydration station, which we'll be rolling out next year. And we're doubling down and scaling our returnable, refillable water business as well.
Thanks, David. Brooks, is there a... Perfect.
Oh, sorry, here I am. So a couple of years ago, I saw some news that recycling often doesn't really get recycled, that companies like China were no longer accepting all of our recycling materials. I guess we were selling it to China. And that most of our recycling still goes into landfills, maybe because it's not properly cleaned or whatever. Can you give an update on whether or not that has evolved at all?
Yeah. So recycling does work. I want everyone to understand recycling does work when the packages are designed properly and the right materials are used. Not all plastics are created equally. And also, certain formats or forms are not easily recycled in the current infrastructure that we have. So, over the years, you had mentioned the recycling rate has been stagnant at about 30%. Even when material was shipping over to China, this sort of plastic, highly valuable, highly recycled, that 30% was consistent. What we were doing was sending over a lot of highly contaminated, low-value plastics, which went over, and anything with a value was recycled, but then everything else, unfortunately, if it was too contaminated, it wasn't properly disposed of. When China stopped taking that contaminated, low-value material, it really brought to light problems in our current infrastructure, recycling infrastructure, where investments really haven't been made for a really long time. And it's critical, in order to improve the recycling rates, we have to get investment. We have to get money that's waiting on the sidelines into and investing in the infrastructure. We need to de-risk that capital that's sitting out there in large impact funds to provide the latest innovation and upgrades to the recycling infrastructure.
Thank you. Is there one more question for David? Hang on, there's a mic coming right behind you. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm John Corrigan, CEO of a company called Summit Sync. How do you think about your strategies with like waste management and other large garbage companies in the United States and around the world?
Yeah, so we look at it as resource recovery. We don't like to call anything waste. We're trying to get rid of waste. We're trying to achieve a waste-free future. So those companies play a key role. In order to break the rules, we're looking at how do we go more vertical with our business? How do we have unique partnerships? As I mentioned, we need to move away from transactional index-based business to really strategic partnerships. So basically, we view resource recovery companies as a key strategic resource and a key strategic partner to achieve a waste-free future.
Great, we're out of time. Great insights. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much. Thank you.